I discovered something today that's actually pretty obvious, leaving me feeling pretty dumb. I had been unaware of Melissa Harris Perry's gaffe with regards to the Romney family a couple of years ago now. I just became aware of it today myself, in which she sort of mocked the overall idea that this huge Mormon family had one African American child that they had obviously adopted into the family. And then she came and made a real tearful apology where she talked about transracial or biracial families and how, she didn't mean to denigrate anyone. And she sort of talked about how the political people put themselves in the limelight, but their families should be hands off, off the market in terms of critiquing them or anything like that. It almost seemed in her apology to me like she was sort of saying, I was wrong because I shouldn't have attacked those children of that public family, not because what she was actually doing and the panel was doing in the original piece where they kind of laughed about that one of these things does not belong here, one of these things is not like the others, underlied an actual racist tone within herself, right? She didn't really analyze that. And then it turns out that she's actually was raised by a white family herself. So I guess I wouldn't say that, I would go as far as to say that she's unsympathetic to a biracial or transracial family situation, given that that is her situation. But the whole thing it's got a weird taste to it, especially from someone like Melissa Harris Perry. And then I was thinking a little bit further about people like Francesca from MTV's Decoded, or Milo Stewart. And the whole narrative right now that's out there that race is a social construct, gender is a social construct, there's nothing biological involved in any of these things, which is complete garbage. But that's the narrative right now, that race and gender are social constructs. And to some degree, I understand that there are social components to those things. And the criticism is that people in the past and people today like to view race in particular as encompassing some inescapable traits and characteristics that any given person can be deemed to have if they are part of that race. And that is prejudicial, and that is incorrect, and that is abhorrent, that is discriminatory, and that is racist. And I agree. However, what they turn around to do is exactly the same thing. And that's the point of this video, is that it's so obvious that I missed it initially. And that is the desire within people to find a way to label their ideological opponents with some kind of inescapable character trait. Generally, it's going to be a flaw, of course. I don't see them particularly engaged in benevolent racism or sexism. And that way they can more easily vilify them and discredit them and dismiss them, not engage in any kind of critical discussion with them. You can dismiss them out of hand. And so all they've done is replaced race, in this instance, with the social construct. So if you are a white male, for instance, Milo Stewart would say, all white people are racist, all cis people are homophobic, and all men are misogynistic. And so what Milo has done is he's replaced race with the social construct. You are enculturated in a particular culture based on these social constructs, and therefore it is inescapable that you are going to have these characteristics or traits, which then I can denigrate and use to dismiss you and use to tell you how much you need to educate yourself and be introspective and that sort of thing, without engaging in any introspection himself. And like I said, it's so obvious that I missed it, but it's just the same base tribalism that people engage in. I made a video. I actually went to great pains to make a video several months back, and I haven't uploaded it, and I don't think I'm going to. It was actually in response to Milo Stewart in saying all these things. And basically the gist of the video was I went up in the mountains where I grew up, into some backwoodsy areas where I grew up, without electricity, without running water. We had a well. We had a house that was propped up by 4x4 posts in the back because it was leaning and falling over. We had chimney fires all the time and all kinds of stuff. And basically the point that I was trying to make was that was my upbringing essentially removed from the common culture. And the people that my parents did sort of hang out with, occasionally we would go across the mountain to another hippie family's place, and we would have like a potluck supper. These were all very liberal-minded people. These were people who were all escaping the common culture to some degree, and they were very accepting. There was never any talk of race, and there was never any, sexism or anything like that I was exposed to in those forums. These people were all very, very accepting and compassionate people with one another, and they accepted or rejected people based on the way they carried themselves, based on their own merits. And there was just, we had friends who were Native Canadian and other people, and there was never any discussion of the fact that this guy was a Native Canadian. He was who he was, and his character was discussed based on his character. He was a little bit of a grouchy kind of guy, and we discussed maybe the fact that he was always grouchy, but never tied that to race or social constructs. And that was the point of this video, was that you can't know, obviously, how someone was enculturated, and to assume that you can attach these inescapable character traits, etc., is to remove conscious thought and critiquing and introspection and rational thought and virtue from the person. You actually are stripping them of their own agency and their autonomy. In other words, my wife is always going crazy when we watch any kind of television show, commercials, movies, because I'm always pointing out the underlying assumptions within whatever it is, a sitcom, a television commercial, etc., etc. I grew up questioning everything, including my own wishes and desires and thoughts and that sort of thing. And I'm thankful for that gift, probably from my parents, who were intellectuals, who, living up in the bush, being college educated and well-read, they read all the time. They would converse with each other on the couch while my brother and I were maybe playing on the floor with some cars or whatever. And I think through osmosis, I picked up a lot of that, questioning the status quo, questioning, what would be considered to be cultural norms and things like that. And to assert that you can know something about someone based on arbitrary metrics, again, removes that agency from them, that a person might not just look around them and say, yeah, actually, this is all bullshit. And they're guilty of the same thing that they are accusing other people of. Having some sort of inescapable negative character traits based on an arbitrary metric that they've just determined is just a different arbitrary metric. It's so obvious I fucking missed it. Thanks for watching.